Hey, it's Mitchell, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about the transition from a Nikon D750 to a Sony A6500 in regards to photos. I'm going to do a follow-up video about transitioning from a D750 to an A6500 in regards to video, but today I just wanted to purely talk about the photographic capabilities of the A6500. Before we jump into that, go ahead, hit the subscribe button if you like this video. If you have questions about the transition, go ahead and check out my Facebook group, Travel Tubers. It is full of traveling digital creatives. Also, if you are into the whole blockchain thing, go ahead and check out my profile on STEEMIT. STEEMIT is a social media platform that allows you to earn cryptocurrency that you can spend or sell how you would like, just for using the social media platform. If you're new to this channel, I like to do videos about tech, some of the techniques I use, and travel. So if you're a traveling creative, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Now that we have covered that, I want to go ahead and start off with the first and most obvious comparison really between the A6500 and the Nikon D750, and that is transitioning from a full frame sensor back to an aps-c size sensor. I say back to because before I was shooting Nikon full frame, I did shoot Nikon aps-c. And I have to say that I really miss the luxury of having 2.8 zooms and being able to get that creamy depth of field at a variety of focal lengths. That being said, the weight penalty that I was paying for carrying a 2.8 zoom with me is really, it's really inconvenient when traveling. It's really kind of crap when trying to do street photography. The f1.8 or faster primes I have for my A6500 really kind of offset that. I am able to get the shallow, dreamy depth of field effect, not to the same extent, but especially for filmmaking, being able to shoot wide open without complete subject isolation can be nice. If this is your first foray into aps-c cameras, just keep in mind the depth of field and the subject isolation difference between aps-c and full frame. If you want to have that f2.8 like subject isolation on an aps-c body, you're going to want to stick with smaller primes, which is totally okay. And in fact, I am preferring using prime lenses more. Next, I got to talk about the image quality. And the Nikon D750 really is a phenomenal camera. And the sensor technology on it was really, really cutting edge for its time. But I have to say that especially below ISO 3200, I don't see much of a difference in image quality overall between my D750 and my A6500, especially in the way that I like to process images. In fact, I'm noticing the ability to pull more detail out of blown out shadows or highlights on my A6500. And that is something that for my editing style and my photography fits really well. So I have to say that when I'm not shooting super dark concerts or bands, that the A6500 fits all of my needs perfectly. That said, obviously if you're shooting dark, fast-moving things, conventional DSLR might be a better choice for you. Next, I want to talk about autofocus. Now, autofocus is something that the D750 was really phenomenal for, and it's something that I absolutely now kind of take for granted. That said, the autofocus system on the A6500 is in some ways more capable than the autofocus system on the D750, but in some ways less capable. Low light, low contrast objects or subjects are things that the camera will struggle with. That said, the fact that you really have the full frame coverage of the autofocus system on the A6500 in many ways and for different types of photography really kind of counteracts that. So depending upon your style, an A6500 might be a better move, it might be a worse move, but I can tell you that I'm getting shots with this camera and I'm not having to focus and then recompose, and that's something I like. And if that's something that you're annoyed by when using a conventional DSLR, potentially a switch to a mirrorless option or an A6500 might be a good move. Another added benefit to the A6500 is the fact that you have focus peaking and you can use vintage or manual focus lenses phenomenally well. It's something that if you're on a budget, you would really want to consider, autofocus glass for the Nikon system, especially if you're using primes. It can be expensive, and I have to say being able to use vintage lenses at a high level with the mirrorless system, especially for video, which I'll cover in a separate video, is something that I am really, really happy with. And I can use some of the older Nikon glass that I had before, and it works flawlessly on my A6500. Let's talk about speed. Now, the D750 was a great camera in many ways, but it lacked a raw buffer that was higher than 10 frames, and the continuous burst rate of the camera was only 7 frames per second. So you had about a second to catch all of your images if you were shooting raw. That said, this A6500 is just on a completely different level in regards to burst rate, in regards to the raw buffer, and it's something that if you're a sports shooter or you shoot skateboarding or you shoot a lot of live action, I think that the raw buffer size as well as just the raw speed of the A6500 would really, really be appealing to you. Finally, guys, I couldn't talk about the Switch without talking about ergonomics. And that is something that I saved for the end of the video. Ergonomics. The Nikon ergonomics of the D750, for me, who's been a lifelong Nikon shooter, were absolutely astounding. There was nothing I would change about them. That camera captured many of the best photos I've ever taken. I've operated that camera intoxicated. I've operated that camera in a variety of mind-altered states. And the ergonomic button placement, the size, the way my, I guess, would be considered large hands felt on that body, and it sounds like I'm getting sexual here, were just of a dream state unlike anything that I could ever potentially compare. Now, the A6500 is more like a nightmare, or not necessarily a nightmare, but a combination of the menu systems, the button customizable, or the button customizability or lack thereof, or being able to have a specific button doing something I want. The ergonomics are still something that act as a barrier between me and being creative. It's something that I still do not enjoy using necessarily, and the buttons have pretty bad feedback, pretty bad tactile feedback, and knowing when you operate something can be a little bit tricky. With all of that out of the way, it's something that I'm going to get used to, and it's something that you kind of have to trade off with if you want a camera that is as small, lightweight, and portable as the A6500. Overall, am I happy? So far, am I getting different images than I did with my Nikon? Yes. Am I getting better images? I don't know. Is it something that I had to compromise with in regards to video? Definitely. Am I regretful of my decision? No. So if you want to know how I feel about this in terms of video, I'll go ahead and I will leave a link in the description when the video version of this is up, and I can talk about the video differences. Till next time, it's been Mitchell, Millennial, signing out.